Konnichiwa. My brother and I really enjoyed our trips to Japan in 2013 2014, so we had to make our way back in 2015. We saved up some points and finally got first class tickets. So we went to the United Global First Lounge and checked it out. The lounge itself has very Asian decor, especially since it's in San Francisco, but very cool, very neutral colors, very relaxing. Although a little bit dated in decor, it was still very luxurious. The food there was a little bit limited in terms of selection, but there were some breakfast burritos and breakfast sandwiches with some juices and the usual selection of spirits. Overall, not bad. However, certainly not up to the level of a lot of the international first class lounges like in Japan, but nonetheless, not bad in the US. After boarding our 747, here's a quick view of the seat and pod. It's a full light flat seat. Awesome. The seat also comes with a full leather amenity bag with various accoutrements and toothpaste and toothbrushes, but a very nice touch. The service in first class was certainly a cut above business. They know your name, so after introductions, they will offer you a nice beverage. I went with champagne. Afterwards, got real comfortable in my seat. As you can see, there's plenty of leg room and space. As for the menu, here it is. Since the flight was headed to Japan, there's some regional specialties including tempura, sushi, but in terms of main courses, you have various options as shown here. I went with the Japanese selection. Here's the liqueur and spirit section. In first class, you also get some other first class services including multiple pillows, plush duvet, so on and so forth. Here's a quick picture of the Japanese selections of the appetizer. It's actually quite tasty, but it's still not at the level of, say, ANA or some of the other carriers, international carriers. After arriving and settling into our hotel, our first full day in Japan, we went to Disneyland Tokyo. Some interesting facts about Tokyo Disneyland. Its main gates are actually right next to the Maihama station. Tokyo Disneyland is actually the first Disney park to be built outside the United States, and it opened in, I think, April of 1983. Of note, Tokyo Disneyland and its companion park, Tokyo Disney Sea, are the only Disney parks not wholly or partly owned by the Walt Disney Company. However, Tokyo Disneyland does include many of the same themed areas as in Disneyland in California. As we noticed in our previous trips to Japan, Christmas time is a big time in Japan, and so the big Christmas tree and all the regalia was out in full force. Some of the rides we went to included It's a Small World. I have to say this was probably the smoothest and most well-organized It's a Small World ride I've ever been in. Everything was smooth and very orderly. Here we are entering It's a Small World. Interestingly, I was expecting some of these songs inside It's a Small World to be all in Japanese, but actually it was not. Depending on the country we were going nearby, it was sung in the native tongue. Here we are exiting It's a Small World. As corny and cheesy as it sounds, I always get a kick out of doing the It's a Small World ride. However, I have to say, my favorite ride of the Disney Tokyo was Space Mountain. Never done Space Mountain before in the States, and when I went to Tokyo, it was awesome. Since we went on a weekday, the lines were a little bit shorter, and I would say we went on Space Mountain about 6 or 7 times. I really love the fact that it was an indoor roller coaster, and the sensory deprivation in the beginning when everything's all black, and all suddenly it just brightens up with all these little stars throughout. It was really cool. We also saw the cool fireworks at the end of the day, but we didn't get any pictures, sorry. As for some of the unique things in Disneyland Tokyo, in terms of some of the soap dispensers, you can actually find Mickey Mouse soap dispensers where the soap comes out in the shape of Mickey Mouse's head. It takes a little bit of practice, but if you get it right, you get this. Pretty neat. Additionally, you'll find some unique snacks, including the green aliens from Toy Story. Another unique item was the various different flavors and themes for popcorn, including a Stitch popcorn. You have Winnie the Pooh popcorn, which is honey flavored. Scattered throughout the rest of the park includes popcorn that has soy sauce and butter flavored, which was pretty nice. Salted popcorn, which is the classic, as well as chocolate covered popcorn. That was actually pretty sweet. In addition, you also find some unique steamed buns in the shape of Mickey Mouse and Minnie Mouse. Here's Minnie Mouse, which is a dessert bun with strawberry and vanilla flavor, and then this is the Mickey Mouse bun with meat inside. Disneyland Tokyo at night was really beautiful with the Christmas tree all lit up. Additionally, the rest of the park being lit up also was quite a sight. Overall, I have to say the experience at Disneyland Tokyo was a true delight. It was very clean, very organized, probably the most efficiently run Disneyland park I've ever been to. And the price, it turned out about 6,900 yen per ticket. Depending on the exchange rate, that works out to be about $60 to about $70 per person, which is pretty darn good compared to over $100 per day at Disneyland in California. Afterwards, we then made it back to Tokyo Station. Here's a beautiful picture of the historic building. Since we didn't really eat lunch at Disneyland Tokyo, we had two dinners. One was a sushi dinner. This included sashimi with a very sweet shrimp. And then our second dinner at Din Tai Fung, which is one of my favorite restaurants in the world. At Din Tai Fung, it started out with some appetizers with bean curd and nice and sour pickled cucumbers. Then came the main event, which was the pork xiaolongbao, which was very nice and juicy. Next came some more Japanese-style appetizer, including tempura shrimp and karaage chicken. Additionally, we also had a noodle soup with shrimp. This was not too bad. Lastly, we had an almond jello dessert, which is very almondy and nice and soft, not too sweet. Our second full day in Tokyo started out with a beautiful sunrise. It was a great and clear day where you can see Mount Fuji off in the distance. For breakfast, we went to the Conrad, which was just nearby the hotel we were staying in, and we had the breakfast buffet. They had a special for the Japanese breakfast, as shown here. The Japanese set also came with some soup and rice, as well as some stewed seasonal vegetables and roots. The Japanese set was extra on top of the regular buffet, but it was a great way to start the breakfast. On top of that, we also had some buffet items, including the pickled goods, some salmon, and some rolled Japanese omelet. After breakfast, we walked it off and headed towards Ueno Park. Along the way, we noticed Wendy's First Kitchen. What is that? For those interested, apparently Wendy's franchisee in Japan bought out First Kitchen, which is a fast food restaurant chain in Japan that serves hamburgers. One of their specialties is the bacon egg burger. But since then, First Kitchen has expanded their menu to include pizzas, pastas, and even fried chicken. Now, Wendy's has bought out First Kitchen from Suntory in order to expand their locations, and now may expand their menu to include pastas and other things besides the Wendy's burgers and spicy chicken burgers. As we headed into Ueno Park, we saw a couple of interesting temples, such as this one. In front of the temple is an area where you can wash your hands and clean up with a really cool dragon spout. As we continue through Ueno Park, there's really a nice scenic walk, very beautiful area with beautiful tree-lined passageways, as well as these huge stone lanterns. Within Ueno Park, you'll also find the Tokyo National Museum. The Tokyo National Museum was established in 1872, and it's actually the oldest Japanese national museum. It's a huge art museum, as well as has various collections of Asian art and Japanese art. The grounds of the museum are well manicured and have interesting statues such as these rams. One of the 5 exhibits in the Tokyo National Museum is the Asian Gallery. In this area, you'll see various artistic and important historic pieces from various parts of Asia, including India, Egypt, China, as well as Korea. Besides religious pieces like this, there were decorative pieces such as this. This is actually a money tree from China. Here are some really cool and old silk scrolls. Additionally, here are some really interesting art pieces, including a pomegranate artifact, as well as some goldfish necklaces. Next, we went into the Japanese gallery. Here you'll see various important art pieces in Japanese history, such as these, and some spiritual pieces such as this. Additionally, there are some really well-preserved samurai armor, including ones with Western-style cuirasses, and more traditional armor such as these. Additionally, there are also some cool headpieces and katana blades as well at the exhibit. Lastly, we went to the Haiseken. This serves primarily as a space for special exhibitions. In this case, they had a special exhibit of the terracotta warriors. Historically, the Qin dynasty was the first dynasty of China. When the first emperor passed away, a collection of terracotta sculptures were created to depict the armies of Qin Shi Huang, who was the first emperor of China. And this was a form of funeral art buried with the emperor in, 200 BCE, somewhere around that time. The terracotta army was supposedly to protect the emperor in his afterlife. What's most impressive about these terracotta warriors is that each figure, the faces are unique. After our stroll through Asian history, we walked around the grounds of the Tokyo National Museum, and behind the main exhibits, there's a beautiful Japanese garden. You can see some nice ponds and some beautiful trees, as well as a nice, very relaxing walkway. In addition, there's some old huts that depicts what a historic home would be like. Next, we went to go check out Sensoji Temple in Asakusa, Tokyo. Sensoji Temple is a huge tourist attraction, but it's also one of the oldest temples in Tokyo. As you enter into the complex, you'll reach Hozomon, which is the treasure house gate, which provides entrance to the inner complex. You'll then get to the main hall, which is quite imposing. It has a very large roof and it mirrors the original style that it was built in. The current building, however, was rebuilt in 1958. Interestingly, it's been reinforced with concrete as well as titanium roof tiles. Within the main hall is an area devoted to Kannon. Here you can make prayers and offerings. At the main hall, you also can practice some omakuji, which is Japanese fortune telling. You basically take this box, you shake it around as you make a wish or a prayer, and then a stick will come out of the box with a number. This number is your fortune number. Then there's an area with multiple drawers with numbers, and you find the number that you received on your stick, go to the drawer with the same number, and you pull out your fortune. It'll explain how likely your wish or prayer might come true. Afterwards, you can also go check out Asakusa Shrine. It's an important and famous Shinto shrine in Tokyo. You'll find the shrine nearby this huge stone torii in the Sensoji Temple complex. The shrine itself honors the three men who founded the Sensoji Temple. Legend has it that two brothers who were fishermen found a bosatsu cannon statuette in a fishing net in the Sumida River back in 628. A wealthy landlord apparently heard about this discovery and talked to the brothers about the Buddha. The two brothers apparently were very impressed and subsequently converted to Buddhism. The cannon statue was then consecrated in a small temple by the landlord and the brothers, who thereafter devoted their lives to following the way of Buddha. The Asakusa Shrine thus honors these three men, the two brothers and the wealthy landlord who helped to build the temple. Afterwards, we had a late lunch at Ippudo. Ippudo is a ramen chain in Japan that first started in Fukuoka and Kyushu. Ippudo serves Hakata ramen, which uses a tonkatsu broth. The ramen was probably one of the best ramens I ever had. The pork was very soft. The broth was exceptional, very creamy, very porky. Can't get any better than this. The broth was so good, I had to get kedama, which is a second serving of noodles, just to finish up and slurp up the rest of the soup. Afterwards, we kind of just meandered through the streets and saw some interesting stores, including this Totoro store, which had various characters from the movie. As my brother and I walked back to our hotel, we were amazed by the beauty of the city. Here, you can see the full moon. Tokyo Tower was also quite beautiful at night, all lit up. Juxtaposed to this beautiful cityscape was this somewhat disturbing sculpture. These sculptures reminded me of the South Park episode Human Centipede. On our third full day in Tokyo, we went to the Tokyo Tower. Along the way, we saw some pretty cool private shrines and gardens. Eventually, we got to the Tokyo Tower. Interestingly, the Tokyo Tower apparently has two mascots. A lot of times buildings in Tokyo or in Japan have mascots to them, and for the Tokyo Tower there are two brothers. There's an older brother who wears blue dungaroos or dungarees and a younger brother who wears red dungarees. Afterwards, for lunch, we went to an Iron Chef restaurant. It's a little bit hard to find, and we actually had to go to Takashimaya to ask for directions, but once you do find it, there's a little oasis within Tokyo. The restaurant is run by Chef Kamiyo Nonaga-san, who was in 2002 an Iron Chef champion. We went there for lunch and had the lunch set. For the main dish, I had the hamachikama, which is perfectly seared and grilled. The side dishes included some tofu salad and some pickles. The lunch also came with a very well balanced miso soup. HG, on the other hand, went with the beef stew. Very classic Japanese beef flavors with some Japanese winter roots. To finish off, we had some sesame ice cream, which was really accentuated with the aromatics of freshly crushed toasted sesame seeds. To walk off all the calories, we went to the Shinjuku Gyoen, or the National Gardens. It's hard to believe you're in one of the most densely populated cities in the world, Tokyo, yet once you walk into this garden, you'll be transported into this beautiful landscape. The gardens is one of Tokyo's largest and most popular parks. There are a lot of spacious park lawns as well as walking paths and tranquil scenery. In addition, in the spring is one of the best places to see the cherry blossoms. The gardens were originally created in the Edo period as a feudal lord's Tokyo residence. However, it was later converted to a botanical garden and transferred to the imperial family in 1903. The gardens consist of a Japanese garden, a French garden, as well as an English garden, in addition a greenhouse. Here are some photos of the Japanese garden portion of the park. In the English garden, you'll see more open spaces and lawns. As for the French garden, you'll see large trees and much more structured areas. Lastly, there's the greenhouse, which actually houses a large collection of tropical and subtropical plants. It just so happened that when we were there, they had an orchid festival or exhibition. Here are some of those beauties. It's really amazing the variety and the breadth of colors and shapes that the orchids can come in. I was definitely pleasantly surprised by the beauty and the breadth of things you can find in the Shinjuku National Gardens. After a little bit of rest, finally went to dinner at a 2 Michelin star restaurant. The place setting is very neat, and the seating actually will allow you to see the open kitchen, which is really cool, as you see all the chefs and their preparations. The meal started with some amuse-bouche, including these finger foods. Fresh butter, as well as freshly baked bread, was exceptional. For the appetizer, there was a very refreshing sashimi dish. Another appetizer, including this almost whimsical interpretation of breakfast, including an egg yolk, as well as bacon bits. As for the fish dish, this was perfectly seared, very nice and crispy. It included also some tiny dry shrimp, which really added extra flavors, and this is a very classic Asian flavors that really comes through. As for the beef, here's the beef. I believe it was a beef tenderloin wrapped up, some classic earthy elements. For dessert, there was ice cream with some caramel glaze. Alternatively, I had the poached pears with the vanilla ice cream, perfect combination. Lastly, there was an assortment of various chocolate truffles and pastries. Overall, I was quite impressed with the artistry, the quality of the ingredients, and the presentation. The food was also exceptional. Definitely one of the best meals I've had. Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, please like it down below and subscribe to our channel to check out our other videos. Take care.